One of the most interesting and wild things about power scaling and calculating feats and versus debate in general is when a character gives an offhanded statement that, for all you know, is true, but changes the entire landscape of that entire universe. It's wild, the random stuff that you find in the very corners of pages. And that brings me to Hades. So I'm playing Hades 2 a lot recently, as it just came out as I'm recording this yesterday, and that got me thinking about Hades 1 again, and a particular statement from the god of death himself, where he said that he didn't like the sky or the surface world because he didn't like Helios' light in the sky, which is the sun.
Thanatos, I ought to have asked by now, but what's it like? Up there, I mean, outside?
It's different. Too many sensations all at once. And when the chariot of Helios is in the sky, it gets so bright that I can barely see.
So, taking that one phrase, that changes everything about the Hades universe. Hello Internet, Jojo here. And Hades 2, it's a good game. There will be no Hades 2 spoilers except for a minor one at the very end. I'll give plenty of warning for that. Anyways, so Helios moves the sun, or is the sun, and moves across the sky. That's wild. Insanely wild. Because the sun is really heavy. Like, it's 333,000 Earths. It's really heavy. But one thing that separates Hades and Greek mythology as a whole from the real world, real life, is the fact that it works on a Earth-centric model of the universe. Everything revolves around Earth, meaning that in Hades, the sun also revolves around the Earth. It's not like that in real life, but in Hades it is. So we have to do a bit weirder math, right? So if the sun did revolve around the Earth, it would need to move at about 1,000 miles per hour, or about 1,666 kilometers per hour, for it to keep the same day-night cycle that we enjoy now. So taking the sun, which weighs about 333,000 planet Earths, and assuming that it was moving at over 1,000 miles per hour, or 1,666 kilometers per hour, and we find that Helios and Zagreus and Hades by extension should be able to output a power equivalent to over 50 yotatons of TNT. That's massive. It can destroy so many planets. Like, a lot of planets, guys. Okay, there is a second way to calculate this feat, one much more physics-based, I guess astrophysics-based. See, the problem with the first calculation is it's a very basic speed calculation. The way the speed was calculated was by assuming that if you got in a car and wanted the sun to never set or be overhead all the time, how fast you would need to move. Essentially, you would just need to match your speed with the apparent speed of the sun. Now, saying apparent speed is important there because it's not the actual speed. Like how something far away looks like it's moving much slower when it is actually moving quite fast. That is the type of speed I use for the first one, and I will say, that is the one I prefer. I think it makes the most sense in context, and makes the most sense out of context. But using astrophysics, it's a very different story. You see, the sun is really far away, about 93 million miles, or 1 AU, astronomical unit, which is, I mean, they literally made the distance for that. If an object that far away was orbiting around Earth, it would have an orbit of 590 million miles. And because the world still has a day-night cycle, in ancient Greece, still a day and night, it would need to orbit that in a day. So 590 million miles in a day. That would put the sun moving at about 3% the speed of light. And while that might not sound fast, you gotta remember, this is the speed of light. Like, this is millions of miles per hour, and this is the sun we're talking about. So the sun, an object 333,000 times the weight of Earth, moving at 3% the speed of light, is going to be incredibly powerful, and it is. In fact, that has a kinetic energy of 1.2 pho. As you might know, a pho is the power of a supernova, the power a sun emits when it explodes. To destroy a sun, you need 1 pho. That is what that is. So, while it might be technically correct from a physics standpoint, that would mean that Helios has the power to pull the sun and destroy the sun. And honestly, Yeah, I could see that because Helios is a Titan, only surpassed by very few in Greek mythology. We don't really know about him in Hades. I'm not a fan of that particular power because I think the lower number of 1,000 miles per hour makes much more sense when you look at the larger Greek appeal as a whole. Because the Greek world was much smaller, if you kind of know that. It really wasn't the world we're talking about. It was really only like Greece and that area over there. That was the world. I saw some people calculate online, not versus calculate, just want to calculate Helios' speed, and they calculated it to be about like 638 kilometers per hour, much slower than, fractions of the speed of light. So while this calculation might make more physics sense, I prefer the lower calculation. But I knew I had to mention this calculation and these things because if I didn't, someone else would. So there you go. Just so you know, this is possible using a much more astrophysical aspect of the world as we know it. Is much more powerful. It's 1.2 foe. Actually, the more I talk about it, the more I could see 1.2 foe being power. I don't know. The thing is, this is something that popped in my mind as I'm editing this video. So I'll let you get back to what you were doing before I interrupted myself. But that being said, because Zagreus, the main character of Hades, has beaten his father, Hades, so many times, Zagreus should absolutely scale to Helios, because Hades is considered to be one of the 3 most powerful gods of this mythology. And while Helios technically is a Titan, I don't know if he follows that same rule in Hades' universe, because from what I understood about his mythology and the brief research I did on him, he kind of is back and forth a little bit. Like, he technically is a Titan, but not like the other Titans. So it's a bit weird like that. And do I think that Zagreus and Hades and I guess Melanie? I'm really trying to get this girl's name right, but man, I just can't get it for some reason. Anyway, should they scale to Helios? Most likely, especially because if at the end of yes, most likely, I do think that Zagreus can scale without help to Helios, because Zagreus can beat Hades without getting help from the gods. I've seen speedruns of this happening. First run speedruns. It's amazing to watch.
No stink of Olympus on you this time. Have you truly come all this way without assistance from your relatives?
Wouldn't you like to know? Not even Nyx believed that I could come this far without aid from the Olympians. Maybe I just have a knack for proving everybody wrong.
No boons, no mirror, no extra weapons, just skill. Thus, he should scale to this in his base form, and every other benefit should likely be on top. And you can chalk up any deaths he had just to inexperience. And if you're going on about inconsistencies and how he dies all the time, blah 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 blah. Well, 1, power does not always equate to durability. 2, it's a video game. Lore in video games and gameplay are always going to be very different. Just very different. And technically, you can beat the entire game without dying once if you're really, really good at it. So it is possible, not plausible, but it is possible. So, Zagreus is pretty jacked. In all honesty, he really is. Now, I will say that I am not assuming that the gravitational binding energy of the sun is equivalent to the character's power, because the gods are like humans, and humans cannot punch another human and completely shatter them, right? So it is unreasonable to say that Helios could destroy himself. Now, this is where we want to talk about Hades 2 and a new character introduced. So there's your warning. In Hades 2, you were introduced to the moon goddess, and she is the moon incarnate. The moon is about 1.2% of the weight of the Earth, so not nearly the size of the sun at all, not even close. Not even the size of the Earth. But assuming that she is the moon and moves the moon and does that kind of stuff, then she would need to move the moon, yet again, 1.2% the weight of Earth, at about 2,228 miles per hour, meaning that she can output at about 9 exatons of TNT, and most other gods should scale to that as well. Now, I also want to mention another character from Hades 2, which is also an offhand comment. Gaia. And Gaia is the personification of Earth. That's a problem. because we don't know enough about her to make an assumption. In like Greek mythology, she is one step below Chaos, the progenitor of all things. And I'm gonna say that we're not scaling that high, just because like that would put her above the Titans as well, as far as I'm aware. So I don't think scaling her to the rotational energy of the Earth would really compare. Would that rotational energy be less than moving the sun? Yes, absolutely. But that being said, there are other feats here and there that imply a level of strength above what we see. That's getting a little bit too far into things I haven't seen for myself and only read online, and things that might technically be considered spoilers, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Play Hades 2 if you haven't. Play Hades 1 if you haven't played Hades 1 first. Play Hades 1 before you play Hades 2. That should be common sense. The stories go together.
Ignore my stupid self and just go play Hades. You can play 2 without actually having to play 1. They're only slightly connected. You'll be fine.
I think they're good games. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye. Remember to stay spectacular. Bye-bye.